up, YouTube? My name's Miranda and I am here today in Jersey. Now, I know it's really close to my face, but look, there's a deer back there. He's looking at me now like I'm crazy, but I've watched he's got like 7 points on his thing, his antlers. But I've watched a lot of hunting shows with my dad, and honestly, like 80% of them don't have this much wildlife. So today we're going to be talking about my namesake and my thoughts and opinions on them, and if I'm really married to the footwear that I have been wearing since I got them. So a little backstory, if you're not familiar, I am in love with the Merrell Moab 2 Midrise boot. Now, I've been wearing these for a while and I have a ton of pairs. And if you don't believe me, I will show you. I am not lying. But Miranda, why do you have so many? Well, because they were on sale. I'm just joking. I only have three pairs. But yeah, still a lot of boots. For one fellow individual. I bought my Merrells really just on a whim. I don't know why I bought Merrells in the first place, other than I just heard Merrells were a good brand. So I bought a pair of Merrell boots and ended up going hiking. I started my hiking adventures up in upstate New York in the Adirondacks. So I took my boots up there and ended up, wandering through the mountains with those shoes on. Now, when I was up there, there was an incident with my first pair of Merrell Moabs, and yeah. So that is why my current trail name is Smoky Boot, or Boots. I typically tell people just Boots because, I don't know, it makes me think of the cute little monkey. So I moved over here to see if we can keep an eye on him, because like I said, 80% of the hunting shows I watched with my dad never saw this. So yeah, so when you're buying a hiking boot or a hiking shoe, you need to keep in mind that there are trail runners and there are boots. Now, there is a difference. Trail runners are a little lighter typically. They don't have, boots are a lot more heavy duty. They are heavier. Like I said, I choose boots over trail runners just mainly for the ankle support. And I do like knowing that my foot is in a nice, safely contained, durable, hardcore unit around my foot. Now, I get a lot of heat for wearing boots out on trail, especially these boots, but I think there's a misconception with why these boots aren't as big of a deal or why the issues that people give me heat for with these boots is not as big of a deal as they like to make it out to be. And I'm going to tell you what those things are, just to hopefully clarify for the people that have been asking me and talking to me about it, and the people in the future who are going to ask me about it, and for you, and if people are asking you these same things. So when it comes to the Merrell Moab 2, or the Merrell Moab 2, this is the Midrise. They also have just a regular boot, I'll show you, or trail runner. I'll put a picture up of that. But when it comes to this, you have 3 different options. Either Goretex, you have the waterproof, and you have vent. Now, you can tell because it has, Merrell puts a little tag on right here. You can see that if it'll focus on it. It'll focus, yeah. So this little thing here, it says dry. This is to indicate that it is a waterproof boot. Now the Goretex ones will say Goretex, and then the vent, these are vents. The vent does not have one. So it'll either say Goretex dry or it won't have one. If it doesn't have a tag on it, it's a vent. Now, a lot of heat I get about wearing boots is that my feet are going to suffocate as soon as the boot gets wet because they won't be able to dry out because they're waterproofed and they have this, that, and the other thing. And that's not the case. So the Goretex boot, Goretex is a technology that was made for footwear. And what it is, in the most simple, basic terms I can put it into, is basically it's like a liner inside of the boot that, stops water from getting into the boot, but is still able to let the moisture from the sweat and permeate out from the inside of the boot and still have that ventilation while not letting the water get in. So that being said, you step in a puddle and the water goes over you know, your boot and your boot fills with water, your boot's going to be wet. I mean, it's like that with any of the pairs you get. It's like that with any shoe. If you get water inside of the shoe, the inside of the shoe is wet. Now with the Goretex, it's also supposed to help keep your feet warmer because it is a thicker, like, insulated layer. Now, my problem with Goretex is the ventilation doesn't vent as well as you would want it to, because in theory it's a great idea, and I love the idea of not being able to get water in the shoe and a completely waterproof shoe and, you know, all of that, but the aeration of it coming out of the boot is clearly going to be a problem. That's just the facts of life. It didn't really work as well as I think they wanted it to, and as unfortunate as that is, that's just the reality. So I know a lot of people freak out, like I said, because I wear boots, and they're like, it's not going to vent. Well, I actually wear the waterproof boot. Now, what's the difference between waterproof and Goretex? Why am I not worried about my feet drying out? So, you know, I'm not lying. I do have 2 pairs of the waterproof. Now, the waterproof is cool because it does still vent. Unlike the Goretex, it doesn't have the liner inside. It simply is they tape the seams and they put like a waterproof coating, like a spray over the outside, which truthfully, I buy a like $5 can from REI of waterproofing spray, and it's water repellent. Actually spray on my shoes, spray a lot of my gear with that stuff. The thing with waterproofing is, I actually had someone explain it to me with cell phones, and I think it applies to boots as well. Nothing is actually really waterproof. It's simply water repellent, and it's how good the water repellent is. So with this boot and the seams being taped and then putting their water protective coating on there, I'm able to like step in a couple shallow puddles if it's raining. You know, it just takes a little longer for the water to actually get inside the boot. Now, when it's raining, just like if I stepped in a puddle that was too deep, you know, water's running down your leg, water is hitting the top of the boot, and your boot does get wet. Now, I've never had a problem with these drying out quickly unless I was in a completely damp and saturated environment, like when I was on Dick's Range and we were walking down the mountain and we were walking out in like 4 inches of water for hours. I think in any boot or any hiking shoe, they would have been wet in that situation, in that kind of environment. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. When I wear these with my Darn Tough socks, and I did a video on that I'll link above, but my Darn Tough socks, I noticed, because they're wool socks, walking with those socks and in these boots, I actually did have an oops, and I slipped into a creek with one foot, came off the rock and went down and submerged my foot. It was a nice summer day, and within like an hour and a half, my foot was fine, it was dry, and I didn't have any issues. So, I mean, Goretex, I do believe, would have a harder time drying out, but the waterproof Merrell doesn't, and that's why I like it. Now, the difference between these 2 boots. Now, the vent is different from the waterproof boot simply because the seams aren't taped and they don't put that waterproof coating on there. And I do believe it has a little bit more mesh on the boot, like these little meshy areas. So it does breathe a little bit better, but I've worn these and I've worn these dry, the waterproof version, and I haven't noticed a difference between the 2 other than I get a little more leniency of like stepping into shallower puddles or you know, having water splash up on my boots. They don't get wet as quickly as they do in the vent. But as far as hiking on like a hot summer day and it's like my feet are just sweaty and I need my feet to air and like breathe, I've never noticed a difference between either as far as like one breathing better than the other. Both boots have gotten wet. I feel like they dry out at about the same rate. But the reason I own 2 pairs of dry over 2 pairs of vents is because the dry actually has, like I said, the tape seams, and I feel like that just prolongs the dryness of my feet without hindering the drying out process like a pair of Goretex would. Another reason I've chosen the Merrell Moab, you know, it's the mother of all boot. I mean, literally, it's in the title, mother of all boots. Now, what's great about the Merrell Moab is not only, like I said, the features of, you know, whether you have the option of vent dry or, you know, the Goretex, which I'm not a big fan of, but they have Vibram soles. Now the Vibram sole is fantastic. It's long lasting, it's super durable. The traction on there I find to be absolutely fantastic. And because it is so, you know, durable, and what I like about it most, I guess, is the fact that, you know, you're on really rocky terrain and you're stepping on stuff and you don't want to feel the sharp objects underneath your foot, which I don't. And then, but at the same time, you don't want your foot to just be like a flat board the whole time. You want to have some give. And I do find that there is, not in this pair is brand new, but there is a little bit of flex that comes, which it's a lot easier when you're actually out hiking, but there is some flex that comes with the actual boot. So it is able to, you know, have a little give, so it's still comfortable while you're actually hiking. Now I do own a pair of Keens and I like them. I don't have them with me right now. So I think that shows you my priorities right there. I've noticed that Keens run wider than Merrells. I'm a big Nike wearer. I know Nike has nothing to do with hiking, but I wear Nikes because I feel like Nikes run narrow just in their general shoe. And I understand like some people have to buy wide just because they have wide feet, but I have narrow feet, and I've just noticed that even the like narrow or regular on Keens are a bit wider than that of like a Nike, or in this case a Merrell. But I use Nike as an example because I feel like a lot of people wear those. So if you do have a little bit wider foot, or you want like a little more breathing room, maybe consider looking into a wide version of the boot. It's always good, good rule of thumb, to get a pair of shoes and have a thumb width from the tip of your toe to the actual front of the toe box. So if you're wearing your boot to, you know, be able to put your thumb like this, and your toe, your big toe actually stops here. That way you have room for when you're like descending hills and steep grades and stuff like that. So your toe isn't jamming into the front of your toe box the whole time, and you don't get black toenails and ingrowns and all those issues. I did just recently get back from hiking Grandfather Mountain in North Carolina, and I would say that's probably been one of the hardest mountains that I have done, especially with the descent. There was boulders, there were ladders, there were steep grades, there were cables to get up and down stuff, and unfortunately for me, my toes did end up slamming into the toe box of my shoes. And so while I did buy mine on sale, and I'm very proud of the fact that I have, you know, discounted shoes that I can wear, I think I actually still have to buy the next size up. So I mean, full transparency here, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't do everything right, most certainly not, and that's why I'm doing this channel, especially before I leave, because I want, you know, others to see my mistakes and be able to learn from that and not make the same ones I do. But yeah, so that kind of is unfortunate for me, that even though I did buy my boots on sale, which I'm gonna keep my boots, obviously, I'm gonna keep my on sale boots and still use them for like day hiking and hiking and whatnot. But as far as the AT is concerned, I probably will have to buy bigger boots. Yeah, so that kind of stinks. But if you're an experienced hiker and you have any like advice or whatever on what I could do on that to not have to buy other boots, or a way to finagle that, because financially, yeah, I'd like to not have to do that. So if you have any advice on that for me, please throw it in the comments down below, let me know. And guys, if I left anything out or you still have questions about the boots, let me know. So thank you for watching, guys. If you want to keep up with me and my crazy life, please hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next video.